Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Live in Color. This channel will basically go over my strategy or journey to get to financial freedom. The plan for the channel is basically to implement my investing strategy that I want to do for 2021 and beyond. I've played with a couple different investment strategies over the last couple of years, such as dividend investing or blue chip investing or penny stock investing, and I found that the one that probably is going to work best for me is more of a growth focused investment strategy, which focuses mostly on company fundamentals but also incorporates a little bit of technical trading into there. And I know technical trading might sound super scary, but at least the technical trading that I'm familiar with is purely just looking at the charts to see if things are holding stable in a pattern, and maybe if they break out, that might initiate a buy point. These are all things that I'll go over into a lot more detail as I start to put out more videos on the channel. But as I mentioned, essentially the channel will cover my portfolio update, which I'll do at least once every 2 weeks. It'll basically be a deep dive into exactly what the portfolio has, the trades that have occurred over the last 2 weeks in between portfolio updates, my reasonings for buys and sells, and probably just a couple stocks that I'm looking at that I've pinned as stocks that I might want to either buy on my watch list, or maybe stuff that I'm looking at potentially selling in the next 1 to 2 weeks. On top of that, what I'd also like to do is upload a video probably once a week regarding the financial world and the financial markets. Usually I would say most of those are probably going to be more finance related because they'll have an impact on the market, but sometimes I might just include news articles that I find interesting. And then one other thing that I really want to do is have videos regarding financial literacy. I think that that's a huge issue that a lot of people don't, take the time to either learn about, or definitely what I found is that growing up, that was definitely never explained in our educational system. So once probably every 2 weeks, alternating with my portfolio update, will be a video regarding some form of financial literacy, whether it's, knowing certain investment vehicles that our banks can offer, or credit cards, or credit score, budgeting, all those kinds of different things that I think are super important to learn early so that you can really build and let that compound over time. Now, I've watched a lot of YouTube videos out there that talk about how people invest in stocks and invest in real estate and how they've built their portfolio of net worth, because I've seen that a lot of the YouTubers out there that might have their recommendations, or the top 5 stocks that they want to buy or that they recommend, usually they might just throw out a list out there, go over a bit of explanation, but you don't really get to see what they're doing behind the scenes. So this approach is kind of more of this is exactly what I'm doing. These are my buys and sells. This is my recommendation, or this is my reasoning for why I'm going into these certain stocks, and you'll have a completely transparent view of everything I do. As you can see here, this will go over the current price, my cost, this you can see the total cost, the market value, the unrealized gains. You're going to see all the good, all the bad. I'm going to include, worst trades, and of course you'll see the good ones as well, but that will kind of be a good experience for anyone who hasn't done stocks before, because not everything is going to be great. I'm sure that I'm going to pick some real stinkers over time, and we'll have some 10%, 20%, 50% losses potentially on some of these, but what I'm really looking to focus on is to make sure I'm picking some companies that are strong fundamentally, they're in a good industry, or they have some competitive edge in their industry, and that they'll be able to grow long term so that they can grow my money for me. I will be making this mostly a buy and hold strategy for the most part. Each stock that I pick will likely be held for at least 1 to 2 years or 2 to 3 years, if not longer. I will have certain stop losses set in place, and I can go over into detail what that means as I start releasing more content. But the stop losses are mostly there so that I can potentially lock in some of my gains if the portfolio is coming down quite a bit due to a market downturn, or maybe if I haven't analyzed the stock as correctly as I think I have. That might be an indicator for me to re-review it. But the stop loss is basically there to protect my downside. Now, the company that I personally use with respect to buying and selling stocks is a company called Interactive Brokers. And I'm trading as a Canadian, so I only have access to the Canadian companies. Unfortunately, M1 Finance and Robinhood that a lot of people use down in the US are not available up here in Canada yet. So I've found that, at least for here in Canada, what's been really good for me is Interactive Brokers. I really like them because they basically have very low fees, and they allow you to buy fractional shares as well, meaning that, for example, you can look at Tesla. Tesla's quite expensive. If you only wanted to buy half a share of Tesla, this company would let you do that. Now, they don't have registered accounts yet, meaning they don't have any tax-free savings accounts or RSPs yet. So if you're planning to trade in those, this might not be the best. You can either open up a trading tax-free savings account or RSP with your bank's trading platform, or another very popular one is Wealth Trade. Wealth Trade basically lets you buy and sell stocks for free. They don't charge you a commission when you buy or sell. The way that they make money is they make money through foreign exchange. So as a Canadian, if you want to buy US securities like I would, they would charge you a fee to exchange from Canadian to US. Basically, the fee will be whatever is the premium between what the market US to Canadian exchange rate is and what you're actually paying. So for example, if the market rate is 1.3, they might charge you 1.315 to exchange from Canadian to US, and they'll make that difference. Now, of course, stock trading isn't the only way to invest. Before I ever touched a single stock investment, I did two main other types of investments called ETF investing and mutual fund investing. For ETFs, a super popular one is called Vanguard. They've basically invented ETF investing, which basically is a type of investment that tracks the main market. So for example, you can see here, this says S&P 500 Index ETF. So this ETF will essentially try and mimic how the S&P 500 does that day and over time. To break it down a little more further, if you don't want to be 100% into stocks because you might find that that's a little too risky for you, they do have options where you can pick that kind of bridge the gap between full stock investments, such as an all equity ETF portfolio, or something like a balanced ETF, conservative ETF. Basically, the difference is just the allocation of how much they hold between stocks and bonds. Bonds meaning essentially either government or corporate debt, which are usually viewed as less risky. Like I said, I will be going into a lot of these in more detail in further videos. This is just kind of a brief overview on what else is out there. And the other very popular option that is easily accessible is, so I've got here just the website of Royal Bank of Canada, or RBC. They're the largest bank in Canada, so I just picked them. But as you can see, they've got 302 mutual funds under their portfolio, and they completely range from super conservative to more on the aggressive side. They have domestic funds, they have US funds, they have Europe, Asia, international funds, all different types of debt funds or equity funds, monthly income funds, and they list all the performance here. There is a growing movement that says that mutual funds, especially sold through kind of the banks, are not worth your while because they charge you a lot for the same or significantly worse performance that an ETF could provide because you're saving on the fees. I'll do a further video that kind of breaks down exactly the pros and cons of an ETF versus a mutual fund. I think that there's a place for each of these in everyone's investment portfolio, but we'll do a further deep dive later. So back to my portfolio here. This is basically the portfolio that I have right now. I will be doing some consolidating of some of these stocks over the next couple weeks as I get ready to fully launch this strategy and channel for 2021. So I imagine the next video, when I do my portfolio update, the stocks will look fairly different. But as of right now, this is kind of the total cost and the total market value of this particular portfolio that I'm working on. 75,000 is the rough cost, 81,000 is the rough value, and there's kind of the rough return so far. I will say this is not kind of the main portfolio that I have right now. As mentioned before, I did start building with ETFs and mutual funds before, so I would recommend, if somebody wants to get into something like this, give those a shot first, see how you respond to the market fluctuations, the ups and downs. And once you're comfortable and disciplined with being able to hold when you're trying to hold instead of sell if the markets are starting to come down, then you can start dabbling in a couple stocks here and there, maybe buy one or two to get your feet wet, and then start building the portfolio from there. For me, the mutual funds and ETFs still take up the majority of my liquid investable assets right now, but hopefully as this builds and grows, then we'll be able to make this kind of the main driver going forward. I will be doing one in both Canadian and US. I'm much more well versed in the US side of things when it comes to equities, so the Canadian side is going to be pretty brand new to me as far as digging up good companies that I want to invest in long term. Right now, the plan is to add roughly about, somewhere between $1,000 and $2,000 a month into this portfolio, depending on how my cash flow is that month. It'll probably be a mix of US and Canadian dollars, because as I said, I will be wanting to build both of these portfolios out simultaneously. So we'll just kind of have to play it by ear and see how that goes. And the reason why I'm using Morningstar is, instead of showing you Interactive Brokers, is because Interactive Brokers unfortunately doesn't split up their US and Canadian when I view the holdings. So what it does is it combines everything from my US, converts it to Canadian on that day, and then kind of reports the holding as a whole. For me, that doesn't really reflect accurately as to how my portfolio is doing because of differences in exchange rate. So I've decided to do it here, and I will have an Excel sheet that kind of goes over exactly how the US portfolio is doing and how the Canadian portfolio is doing. So the Excel sheet is very straightforward. I'm just going to list the date. January 1st, 2021 will probably be the next time I do a full update on the portfolio. So I'll have the totals listed here, and then it'll just kind of be a chart to track how it does. So that's basically how this channel will be operating. I don't have any affiliation with any of the companies I talked about today. These are just my personal preferences. So leave a like and a sub if you enjoyed it, and hopefully we can go on a journey together towards financial freedom. Until next time.